racially inspired?
I'm not going to discuss any of the facts about that. As I said possibly inspired. Thank you very much.
Are you establishing a link with Iran by seeking sources?
The FBI Director Robert Mueller and Attorney General John Ashcroft, their afternoon briefing. A couple of things to note out of that. Within a day or so, the Attorney General said the Justice Department will have a series of laws it will request that it will present to Congress, including expanding wiretapping authority so that no longer do officials have to tap a specific number. They can tap a specific individual no matter how many phones that person might have, and also that they would need to go to court only one time to get approval to cover the entire country, rather than going to court in each jurisdiction where a phone number or an individual currently is. The Attorney General would like to eliminate the statute of limitations on terrorism and put terrorism on equal footing with other crimes. He said there are cases where, for example, espionage is handled as a more serious crime than terrorism, and he'd like to see that changed. There's a fair amount of support in Congress for based on a conversation we had yesterday with Florida Senator Bob Graham, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, a fair amount of support for much of what the Attorney General has already or will be asking for. FBI Director Mueller didn't talk in much detail about the investigation, but did, at least to our hearing, play a little bit of defense on whether or not the FBI should have been able to track down the suspected hijackers before they committed their act. He at one point said it's very hard to find someone in the United States once they are in the country. CNN's Eileen O'Connor is working the investigative side. Clearly, you're not getting information much up from these briefings on the details. You must be doing something else. What do you got?
Well, what we're doing, Aaron, is we're basically taking names off of a watch list that's been distributed to car rental places, airports, hotels, things like that. And also through some sources, we had some names early on. And we're running background checks. And what we're also doing is we do some checks on names that are associated with the hijackers. We're doing very much what the FBI is doing. And what we're also doing then is cross-checking on these things and trying to see where these men moved, who their associates were, where they went to flight school. And then we're going and we're talking to people, neighbors, landlords, people near nearby restaurants. What were they like? What did they do? Very important piece of information we've been picking up all week relates to what he was talking about, cell phones. A lot of neighbors telling us they always saw these guys on cell phones outside their apartments. So, in fact, if they were being watched, they were talking outside of the apartment. And that sort of reminded me of my days in the former Soviet Union when we knew that we needed to be outside for certain conversations. So that wiretap law will be very critical for the FBI. They have been very frustrated in their efforts to find these people. Aaron?
Eileen, can you give us, can you put a number yet on the number of people we believe are being held as material witnesses at this moment?
Yeah, I can give you an update on that. That sources say that one of the men they have in custody on a material witness warrant was picked up on August 17th in Minneapolis, Minnesota on a passport violation. Now, he has now been transported to New York City for questioning, but he is not cooperating, according to sources. Zacharias Moussaoui came into the United States in February on a student visa for flight school. He was in custody when the terrorist attacks happened, again, on a visa violation. Two other men are cooperating. Authorities searched their apartment here in Jersey City near the mosque where those associated with the first World Trade Center bombing worshipped. Through computer checks that we have done, it appears they lived at various addresses with people who are potentially associates of some of the dead hijackers. The two men who lived at that address are Mohammed Jawed Asmuth and Ayub Ali Khan. They were pulled off of a train that was going to San Antonio. They had box cutters similar to ones used by the dead hijackers. They had tickets on a flight from Newark to San Antonio. Also, sources now tell me that another of the four men held under those material witness warrants is a doctor from San Antonio. Federal authorities searched his home. They took him into custody. It appears it is a man whom Asmuth and Khan may have been going to seek refuge from. Now, computer records indicate that that man went to a flight school, the same school in Arizona as one of the dead Pentagon hijackers. Law enforcement are looking to see if that man really is the same man, and his last name is also very similar to two of the dead hijackers. So they're also looking, sources say, for some kind of family connection. Again, they haven't had that confirmed. They also, Aaron, continue to seek a man who lived in various places in Florida, but was connected potentially to Vero Beach and flight training there. The focus, really, connections among these associates, especially deep in New Jersey and Florida, with that other cell they thought operating out of Texas. They might have been able to get everybody there. Aaron?
Eileen, we talked last night about these pieces of a puzzle, and each day we seem to get another piece here, another piece there. It's not a clear picture by any means yet, but the pieces do come in.
They do come in, and increasingly they do lead, and that's why you have the President, the Secretary of State, and others saying that their prime suspect is Osama bin Laden. Those pieces put together with their interconnections all do seem to lead back to Osama bin Laden. By the way, Aaron, it's not just a puzzle pieces in the United States. These are puzzle pieces that are coming in from as far away as the Philippines, France, Brussels, London, and so very difficult to get them all and to get them all together. Aaron?
We'll let you go back to work. Thank you. Clearly a lot of work to be done. Eileen O'Connor, part of the team working on the investigative side of this. There's a diplomatic military side of this, and going on down here, there's the search and rescue and the markets to keep track of today, and we will continue to keep track of them all. CNN's continuing coverage of America's new war continues after this break.
This is a testing time for us. We have been tested before in other moments of our history, and this is another time. And I believe that we will pass the test. A lot of people have said over the last few years Americans have gotten soft and sloppy and indolent. And, you know, if a great challenge came, would we be up to it? We'll now find out.
What kind of rooms you got?
King size.
You got room service?
Donuts and coffee.
Got entertainment?
All rooms have every movie ever made in every language, anytime, day or night.
How is that possible?
This is the technology that makes it happen. This is Riding the Light. Quest.
It's easy to take electricity for granted. A lot of us aren't even sure where it comes from. So we're sometimes surprised to learn that over half of the electricity we use comes from coal.
Mrs. Windler!
And thanks to a $50 billion investment in clean coal technologies by America's electric utilities that use coal, it's getting cleaner every day, helping us protect something we can't take for granted: our environment.
Have you gotten yourself into too much credit card debt? You may be able to point and click your way out with a second mortgage from Ditech.com. Whether you have equity or no equity, Ditech has a second mortgage with a no closing cost option that may help lower your monthly payments. Why pay minimum monthly payments when you can pay off your high interest debt with a second mortgage from Ditech.com? For fast, friendly service, apply online or call us at 1-800-71-FIX now.
With the kind of deals we have here in Gateway Country, we don't need gimmicks to get you in the store. Right now, we'll give you this Epson Stylus printer free when you buy any Gateway Essential PC. This is the Gateway Essential 950C featuring the Intel Celeron processor. It's only $7.99. That's why I say we don't need gimmicks.
Really?
Offer ends September 23rd, so stop by soon or call 1-800-GATEWAY.
The site of the World Trade Center on a Monday afternoon in September in New York City. The work effort goes on. They still call it a rescue effort, and hopefully that is correct, but it has been a long time now. It's been, I believe, since Wednesday that anyone has been pulled out alive. It is not easy work down there. CNN's Michael Oku has been down there today for us and joins us now on just how difficult it has become. Michael, good afternoon.
You might see over my shoulder that Governor George Pataki of New York and, of course, the Mayor Rudolph Giuliani have been giving a press conference talking about the spirit, the great spirit that the rescue workers have as they toil through the rubble and the ash of the World Trade Center. I should tell you that according to FEMA, you correctly say it, that they are still calling this a rescue mission and that it will continue as long as it takes. They were very, very keen at a press conference this morning to make sure that everybody knew that they still consider it to be a rescue mission and not a recovery mission. And at some point in the future, they will let us know when they make that shift officially. Now, the first estimates of how long it will take to actually take all the debris out of that site are beginning to come in. According to FEMA, it will take them months. And you can imagine, Aaron, given the amount of debris down there, you can't expect them to be any more specific than that. The EPA is also here. It may be a very clear day in front of me, but they are here looking at the air quality. They believe that they have decontamination units on site, and they believe that some of the air, even though that many of the authorities here believe that asbestos levels are okay, that there is enough soot and other material in the air that may be injurious to some of the rescue workers and, frankly, some of the media and other residents here at the site. They also are looking into the possibility that one of the buildings close to the crash site had contained a great level of freon. So we'll be looking at that development as the day continues. As you can see behind me, the cloud of smoke continues to billow, not quite as thick as it was last week, but still just as persistent, and at times reaching a degree of thickness that belies the fact that this occurred almost a week ago at this point. The New York City Fire Commissioner has told us that, in fact, there are fires still raging deep within the rubble, and that they can't, in fact, put out those fires until they remove some of the debris from around it. So they are working around the fires, but you can imagine that at some sites very close in that rubble that the heat is very, very intense. And that makes, of course, the steel and some of the iron fragments that are strewn and littered throughout that site very hot and sometimes very dangerous to work on. Rescue workers continue to work 24-hour shifts here. They're hopeful that there are air pockets or voids where some of the victims might have survived. There is a mall right between where the World Trade Center was, and they're hoping that some of the victims might be in some area within that mall and in other what they're calling voids. Just a moment ago, a team of canine units, a canine unit team came uptown here and told us that they are now again beginning to find bodies. The fact that they're finding victims might be hopeful that at least they're getting to areas where there were people and hopefully then survivors. I should also tell you that, of course, it has been slow going, and some of the rescue workers here are hanging in onto every shred of hope that they will find something. One of them told us this morning that they had a glimmer of hope when they went to an area that was completely incinerated but for a single Bible. Aaron?
Michael, thanks. I'm looking at these aerials as you were talking. I was on that helicopter flight yesterday morning. We flew over the site. I must say, it takes your breath away. It is broader than you imagine. It is uglier than you can believe. And both in mind and in heart, it takes your breath away. If we look behind us, I'm sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Well, it's interesting you say it takes your breath away. It quite literally, it's a tangible thing, because a couple days ago, not so much today, a little bit earlier this morning, you could still taste, if I can say that, some of what's going on here, because the air was laden with some of the debris, and it was very difficult to avoid that. So when you say it takes your breath away, that's very apropos.
Thank you, Michael, thank you. And you can sort of file this in the, it probably doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's worth noting, department. I think it's the first time that I've looked back there since Tuesday morning, and you could actually see the smoke has cleared enough so that you can actually see the buildings behind where the Trade Center was. Don't see them that clearly, but clearly there is less smoke out there, a sign that the work is getting done. Judy?
Aaron, we just listened to Michael Oku saying that authorities insist on characterizing what they're doing still as a rescue mission. They're not calling it a recovery. That word rescue must be so important to so many families and loved ones. Now we know New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani acknowledging some bodies may never be found, but for those families, those thousands of families, the wait continues, and so does